Hey guys, you're on the JRB Tree Climbing channel. I'll never forget the time when I was doing some of my earliest videos on DSRT and a gentleman chimed in, "John, that looks great in terms of a climbing method, especially in the Northeast where you've got yourself a lot of hardwoods with mature trees and strong crotches. But down here south of the Mason-Dixon line, we've got a lot of straight pines and the first branch is pretty high up and it might be dead. How can we get in that tree safely?" And this was one of the motivators for the hitch climbing method system and its evolution. Well, today I found myself south of the Mason-Dixon line and I wanted to take advantage of my geography and do a quick climb. You're not going to see anything magic here that you haven't seen in prior videos, but I think the more I show you real-world climbing situations, the more this all starts to come together. And so here I've got what I believe is a Norfolk pine, and here is my universal climbing system. It's more rope than I need for this, and I've got more friction hitches on this than I need for this climb. I only need 2, and there's 4 friction hitches on this system, but the other 2 are benign. They're not going to be used and they're not going to get in my way, so we can disregard them. And of course I've got the Maverick pole. This system is not equipped with the JRB cinch. I'll be using the Maverick hitch. I am self-filming, and so what I'm going to do is step over to the camera, give you a little better look at the tree, and then I'll execute a climb. And I'll probably be yapping through the whole thing just because there might be a detail that I haven't seen in a prior video, and I'll make sure I talk you through it. Let's go look at the tree. Okay, so this tree is a little over 18 inches wide at the base, and sure, it would have been easy for me to pick one with no obstacles, but here I've got a dead branch that's, I don't know, 20 feet in the air, a little less than that, and I want to be anchored a little higher than that. I might want my feet that high in a hunting situation, so that branch is a little bit of a problem, and so I'm going to climb right up underneath it and go around it. Sure, we could have used that branch for Houdini rigging of a Maverick hitch, but it's a little low. Go up a little further, there's some more dead branches and a live one, but the presence of the lower dead branch is a problem if we wanted to rig a Houdini rigging off of that. And so this is a perfect tree to execute a hitch climb, and that's what you're going to see. It's a little windy today, so I apologize in advance for any audio clipping issues we have. If I have to voice over, I will. I'm going to take my universal system and deploy it. I'll flip the rope around the tree, and I'm going to form a Maverick hitch. To the degree possible, I prefer not to edit my videos a lot. I try to keep them as real as possible. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to show you how I climb a tree. As you're aware, there's a dedicated page on my website, jrbtreeclimbing.com, devoted to the hitch climbing method. And there's a dedicated playlist. Sure, I could execute the same climb with a JRB cinch. Now, you see what I'm doing here? I'm going from left to right. That helps me get up the tree over that rough bark. And see how far away my pole is? If I had that tighter like here, that'd be a little harder to walk it up the tree. But I get it to the point where it's roughly horizontal, and I cinch it on the tree by pushing up on the pole and down on the rope and wiggle it to ensure I've got it firmly set. I'll just leave my pole there. This is the compact Longhorn Agile hitch. I'm going to put that on my bridge and shorten that bridge as tight as I can get it. My excess bridge loop, I'll tuck that at my lineman's loop just so it's not going to get caught on my foot. And given that I'll be executing a transfer in the very near future, let me get the other end of my rope and have it handy and ready to go. And I'll just clip that onto me so I've got it ready to go. Whip out the Garda hitch foot loop in transformation mode. That just means I'm running it short. Put it on the line, foot in the foot loop, and I'll start my climb. Let's get our redundancy engaged. 2 points of connection to the moving rope. In terms of being quiet, I can kind of tiptoe up the tree. You know, there's going to be a little noise due to the bark and how dry it is, but I'm not really scraping anything. The other end of the rope that I've got prepared and ready for me. I'll form another maverick hitch. Some folks have asked me how long it takes to climb this way, and honestly, I've never timed it. Usually yapping. But most important thing when we're climbing is that we're climbing safely. And so, although this is not my preferred climbing method, for this tree, it's appropriate. And so, if our climb takes a little bit more time, that's not a problem. That's about as high as I can get. Take the other carabiner that's on the other compact Longhorn Agile hitch, and we get to decide if we want to work left or right on our bridge. I'm going to work towards the right, so I have the rope on my right side. That's kind of important, that detail, and I maybe didn't do a great job at pointing it out in prior videos, but we really want to carefully manage the two strands of rope to the ground. But now I'm going to execute a transfer. I've got my bridge fairly horizontal, and a transfer is simply transitioning my weight into the upper rope. Taking all the slack out I can and weighting it. I'm going to take my Garda hitch foot loop and move it to the other side. Now sure, if you wanted to build a system exclusively for hitch climbing, we could have two Gardas or dedicated foot loops. I've already gone through that detail. We're going to stick with the universal system and stay with the additional work of transitioning the Garda over. Now I'll just leave it hang for me. So when I get in the studio, I'll estimate the height of that dead spar. On second thought, I think it's a little less than 20 feet, but based on prior climbs and how high I got with this hitch, I'll let you know how high that was. The point is that we can get past it, and I'll demonstrate that momentarily. Careful not to drop my pole. But grab the other end of the rope and put a little slack in, right? Because I climbed as far as I could get on that other Maverick. Okay, now I've got to get over this branch. I'm close enough to it that I can simply whip this over. But there's all kinds of different scenarios with your pole whereby you might need to feed that rope over by a different method, and it's going to vary with the geometry. But let's just say I couldn't reach that. Well, I'll just put my end loop, JRB end loop, over and bring it. always err on having a little extra line to form my Maverick rather than too little. And I'm forming Maverick number 3 here. But see how I intentionally climbed kind of under this dead branch so I could navigate it. If I was on the other side of the tree, well, it would be harder to see what's going on. And I have some control in terms of this next Maverick, in terms of where I might want to be on the tree for my hunt. Let me just show you that. So if I wanted to set my hitch way over here to the right, I could. Way over here to the left, I could. I'm afraid I'm getting out of view, and so I'm going to bring this down a little bit. I'll bring it down just a little bit and make sure I'm in view and make this last move a short one. At this point, I'm through with my Maverick pole, so I'll collapse it. I do have a sling for my Maverick pole, and I do recommend one, but for purposes of all my demonstration climbs, I've been skipping it. And I'll take that hook, which is faced towards me, and I can hook it on one of the molly loops on my saddle, and that just won't come off. It's a really stable configuration. Okay, now just behind the tree here, you know what's going on. This end of the rope was already hooked onto me. I'm going to transfer over to that. Let's get my bridge horizontal by raising my guard up just a little. I'm kind of horizontal. I'll move my guard over. Okay. So now my weight has completely been removed from this anchor, and so I can remove it from the tree. And I'll also remove it from my bridge. You can do that now or later, but there's no time like the present. Let's give ourselves a line to ground in case we needed to rappel for emergency purposes. And I'll finish the climb. Now, normally I would have a platform in a real hunting situation, and I could stand on the platform when it comes to removing or lengthening my bridge. But I find that I have no problem doing it, and I apologize, I'm slightly behind the tree, but I've stood up so there's no weight on my bridge, and I can therefore lengthen it with one hand. When we rappel, we always need a little room between our bridges because our short bridge doesn't want to be smacked up against our long bridge so that the munter can run. Okay, how did I do? Engage the munter on my lower bridge. Sure, all this would have been easier with a platform, but we've got to be able to do everything we need to do even without a platform. So even if you're practicing this 6 feet off the ground, it's a great skill to have. Let's break the Longhorn Agile and get into rappel. I realize I'm a ways from the camera, but I want to point out that there's a little bit of room between my munter and my friction hitch, and I can actually change that by lengthening my bridge. And I can do it while I'm in the middle of a rappel if there was ever a problem. It's one of the features I like about the Longhorn Agile. It's always breakable under load. Okay, a little bit at a time. I'm giving you information on how I climb in real world scenarios. Okay. When I unlock that Maverick, sometimes you got to be careful. It gets a little jumbled up sometimes up in the canopy. You've got to make sure you've got it unlocked properly. Let's make sure I did so. Okay, and so because that branch was there, right? That branch was there, that's going to hang us up. So we're going to have to remove, it's not just going to fall, you got to remove this. And yeah, there is a small chance that that tiny little end loop could get caught on something, but it's really slim. Okay, you get the idea. I'm going to coil this up and get you back to what you were doing. There you go. Thank you.